Wearing up to go live. Right, here we go. Bill, good morning. Good morning. How are you today?
Good morning to you. I'm doing great. Thank you so much thanks so much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Well, Bill, we're here to discuss your book, which is something that I know you've been working on for quite a while. Inquire to Inspire: 20 Questions to Mentor Your Innovation Team to Success. Mm-hmm. Yep, that's the one. Now, Bill, bearing in mind that our audience with 12 Ronnies is people launching commercial ideas, launching businesses. If we can, I've sort of framed a bunch of questions along those lines for this particular audience. But before we get going, I just want to let people know that if they are launching a commercial idea or a business, we have a startup assessment quiz on 12ronnies.com. If you go there, you'll see a big red button in the middle of the page for the assessment quiz. If people click on that, they can go through a bunch of questions, which will give them an idea of where they are in their startup process and things to do and what to focus on next. Anyway, let's focus on you, Bill, and your book. So I've prepared a bunch of questions together with our good friend ChatGPT. And really from a view about yourself, maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself and what personal experiences led you to write this book and why focus on the power of inquiry and mentoring.
Yeah, about 10 or 15 years ago, I got started mentoring internal innovation teams at a company I worked with. And it was really sort of a gateway drug for my passion for discovery and learning, and and that kind of translated into customer discovery and design, product design, and that whole process. So once I sort of plugged into that process and started pulling in the other ones, I sort of brought them all into sort of a mindset that I really enjoyed teaching others. And what I saw when people learned how to work this way, it changed their lives, both personally and professionally. They went from kind of leading dull lives of going from project to project and never really seeing the results of what they did to really taking ownership and pride and seeing very quickly the results of what they did, because we were working in very short and really in sprints. To learn very, very specific things to decide if we still need to continue moving forward, or we stop, or we need to move in a different direction. So that really ignited the passion for me, and led up to this point to write the book.
And this is where the inspire part of the book really comes in, doesn't it? It's
you inspire people by mentoring them instead of managing them. When you manage people, they get smaller. When you mentor people, they get bigger. And no offense to my friends in human resources, but people are not they're not resources. Resources are things, and you manage things, you manage them around. People are people, and you mentor them, because unlike resources are static. They're a thing, they're a certain size, a value, and they come and they go and whatever. But people can actually get bigger. The pie gets bigger. So they aren't a resource. They're something a great deal more than that. We need to treat them like that. So that mentoring allows people to become something that they never thought they could become, because you give them the space to become it.
Well, that's a really good way to view people as well. And actually, it really leads perfectly into my next question, which was about mentoring. And I'm wondering if you could share a story of how mentoring, particularly through questioning, because it's all about questioning here, significantly impacted the success of a project or team you've worked with.
Yeah, well, it comes down to having control over the two types of questions that you can ask. You can ask questions that narrow people, that narrow thought, or questions that open up thought. So it's what are the words I use in the book? I'm drawing a blank, but you can ask questions when the team is going too wide. They're trying to think of too many things. It's a great time to ask a question to narrow them. Like, well, what would your customers say? And that really gets them to focus. When they're getting too narrow, you say, well, in what ways could could we solve this for the customer? So that there are times as the mentor to that you need to corral them in, and there's times when you need to let them go wild, so that then you can corral them in. So all of the ideas, all of the resources that we need are there. It's up to the mentor though to be able to, it's almost like a herding sheep, with the dog, we've all seen those great videos of herding dogs, shepherd dogs, who, there's a time to bring them together and there's a time to disperse them, and that's an important thing for the mentor, because the team can get very myopic. They're looking just at what's going on now. The coach or the mentor's responsibility is to stay back and help them see the bigger picture when they need to, and help them see the smaller picture when they need to.
And are these the provocative questions you talk about in your book?
Yeah, if you're not asking provocative questions, you need to find some new ones, because you need to provoke people. You need to get them. A question should get people to think about something maybe they haven't thought about. Because if you're not asking those questions, then you're not bringing the value that you need to bring as a coach or a sponsor of that team. That is your role as the sponsor. The team exists for one reason, whether it's a startup team or inside of a big company. It has to deliver a learning product to someone, whether it's the team themselves or to that sponsor inside their company, because they have to make a de-risk decision to move forward. And without that knowledge, the decisions get riskier and riskier as you move forward. They should get easier and easier, less and less risky, because we learned this thing, so it justifies this next step. So the responsibility is to help the team stay very focused on that goal. We have to deliver a learning product. We're not delivering a physical product. We have to deliver a learning product about the thing, or about the outcome that we believe we're trying to drive to a customer.
That makes sense, Bill. Bill, we got a question from the audience. Christopher Norris, he's put a question in the comments. So Bill, how do you find that your book helps you get more visible in other areas of your business interests, or do you?
Well, the books are always a great excuse to have a conversation like today. The book itself is provocative. The traditional sort of way of working with people is to manage them, is to direct people to do things. So just the title of the book gives us a great opportunity to have conversations in spaces we might not normally have them, about how do we achieve the things we want to achieve by opening things up instead of shutting things down. So I think it's a gateway to great conversations. It's a great excuse for a conversation with a leader or with someone in a startup. How do we solve this problem in a way maybe we hadn't thought of?
Thanks, Bill. And actually, for anybody listening at the moment or subsequently on the stream, if you'd like to put your questions in the comments, we'll have a go at answering them. But I'm going to move on to the next question, which is more about the mentoring side of it, and really for those that are new to mentoring. Could you give 2 or 3 essential questions that they should master to guide their team through the initial stages of, let's say, design thinking?
Sure. The short answer is why. If you could just learn that question, when the team makes a statement, always challenging that statement. Why then leads to how do you know? But I think some of those really initial questions are, what do we need to learn, and what can we do to learn it? And those are the questions that really that propel the team initially. Say, hey, we've got this customer and we believe they have a problem, and we believe it's a problem they're willing to solve. All right, what do we need to learn, and how can we go about learning it? And then the third question is, how quickly can we learn? And that becomes the question of fidelity. What's the lowest fidelity that we can learn at that will allow us to keep moving quickly?
Thank Bill. I think you've actually covered in that the next question I prepared for you. Is there any other examples or anything else that you want to add to it in the context of this question, from ideation to scaling?
Yeah. So the questions change a little bit through the process. There's sort of the discovery, the discovery phase, and then we discovered a value proposition. But now we have to scale this thing that started out as a low fidelity prototype and maybe a manual sort of process with our customer. Hey, we showed that we can deliver value, but we can't do that in a sustainable way. So now we have to scale it in some way, turn it into something that's digital or electronic or mass produced or something like that. So the questions change. How do we drive value? Okay, now how do we do it in a way that that doesn't involve handwork? It's similar to sort of the crossing the chasm problem. Okay, we solve for the early adopter. How do we solve for the early majority, the people that really want to wait until they see 1,000 5-star Google reviews before they're willing to touch it? So it's just being very focused on help them focus at what stage they're at anymore. Hey, we're not trying to discover value anymore. We're trying to discover value delivered in this way. So keep them focused on it, and then keep them from changing it unnecessarily. Well, we'll do it different. No, don't do it. Don't get away from what made you successful. Keep the success, now just deliver it in a way that's scalable and reproducible.
So it's just a difference in delivery, but keep to what's successful. And
it's keeping them focused, and that's the thing. It's always about keeping them focused, because teams will always want, again, whether they're inside a big company or whether they're a startup, they'll always want to focus on something easy or something comfortable or something else that isn't is stressful to them. So you have to move them away from that and say, okay, here's the thing we have to solve now. We could come back to that thing later on.
Thanks, Bill. Bill, we have at 12 Ronnies with our founders and mentors community, we've got quite a large community of mentors that get involved in helping startups, helping people in the whole ideation process. So if you were directing this at our audience of mentors, what are some of the pitfalls that they should avoid when asking questions to guide their teams? And how can they assure they're not leading the witness?
Yeah, exactly. And you're already on it there. It's the divergent and the convergent questions. My brain came back. Those are the two words I was looking for before. Yeah. You ask the right question at the right time. Is it divergent?
Oh, our connection seems to be going a little bit here, Bill. Okay, Bill seems to have dropped off the call for a bit. So while he's reconnecting, just for people listening in at the moment, 12 Ronnies are an organization that help people start businesses. So it's business ideas all the way through to launching a business. And we do this in a number of ways. And all of this is really around mentoring and providing expertise to people. Now, it could be mentoring as traditional mentoring, or sometimes we focus on particular aspects such as idea validation, which is a bit more coaching than mentoring. And there are some nuances and distinctions between coaching and mentoring. But we have a number of platforms to facilitate this process of ideation, of validating people's startup ideas, so that they have an audience that has a demand for the particular idea or business that they want to launch. Because a lot of startups just want to create. It's a human nature thing that we think, well, okay, I've got a really good idea. What am I going to call it? Well, I'm now creating a brand, and I'm creating a brand for people that haven't really have a demand for that particular idea. So it's all about creating demand, this whole idea of idea validation. Sorry, Bill, just while our internet connection went, I was just reminding people a little bit about 12 Ronnies. But I had a few more questions actually still while we're on our stream. And
this one here, just to finish up on this one, was
sorry,
just avoid the leading questions, avoid the loaded questions, avoid the closed-ended questions.
Yeah.
Don't ask them, why haven't you done this, or why haven't you thought about this? What other things could we think of? What other ways could we do something? Make sure that you're opening people up instead of closing them down when you're asking those questions, so that there's an opportunity to bring up new ideas, and that there's safety. There's always safety in open-ended questions, especially when we're open to any answer. Because when you ask an open-ended question, you have to be open to everything, because then the following closed, the convergent question that is, okay, we had those 10 ideas. Which one or two are the one that the customer would be most interested in? So it's those open-ended questions, those divergent questions help build the safety so we can ask the convergent questions. Okay, let's get it down to one or two to work on today.
Well, you must have read my mind, because the next question I wanted to ask was all about well, I'll put it up on screen, but really about these questions and where you have conflicting ideas and disagreements, and you've got a team that's really discussing these ideas, and you want to create a safe environment to do that. So how can a mentor use these sorts of questions in this environment?
This is definitely in the book, and the answer is to stop and remind them that it's not what we think, it's what does the customer think. So first redirect to, okay, what would the customer say, and if we don't know, how do we go find out? And then if there's disagreement on the team about what the customer means, then it just comes down to a democratic process. Okay, we've got two competing ideas here. I don't know which one of them is the right one. Maybe neither one. Which one are we going to work on first? And that also helps build safety too. Hey, we're going to vote on it. One idea is going to be first. And if that one doesn't work, then we're going to go to the second idea because maybe that was the right one. We just don't know, but we're going to pick a direction. We're not going to get stuck here having an argument about whose idea is better because they're equally likely. We're just going to start somewhere. We're going to do this, and then we're going to do that one if the first one doesn't work. That's it.
Well, that's a really good way of addressing that whole field, because when you were when your connection dropped earlier, I was talking about a key thing that 12 Ronnies help people do in launching businesses is all about validating ideas, making sure that there's demand for the idea that you want to launch, and it's not intuitive. Most people like to build and create things, not necessarily look for customers straight out of the starting gate. So in your experience, what are the most effective questions to help teams validate their ideas and longer term when they're scaling a little bit to ensure product market fit?
Well, the first one is, what problem are we here to solve? And sometimes that's not even talking about the customer and the problem. Sometimes the problem is, hey, we need to learn about something. Hey, there might be a problem out there. We need to learn if there is one. So first the question is, why are we here? Setting that up right away. And then, okay, then who is our customer? Who's the customer of what we're trying to do? What's our theory of customer value? And and then what do we need to learn all that stuff? And then later on, as they have all that and they're scaling, it comes down to how will what do we know about the customer? Their consumption of solutions in that sort of scaled space. So what does it need to look like for them to be able to access that value proposition, not in our low fidelity version, but in a high fidelity version, in a repeatable, scalable space.
No, and in the scaling side, so the difference when you're looking for a product market fit, you've already got data of early adopters, you've already looked at demand for certain customer segments. So I guess the questions become different because you have data to start to base some questions on, whereas at the very beginning you have a limited amount of data and a lot of assumptions.
Yeah, those two stages, kind of before and after the chasm, is before the chasm, it's value proposition innovation, it's product innovation. But after the chasm, it kind of becomes marketing innovation. How do we get this to people? How do we make people aware of it on a large scale? Because initially you probably had 20, 30, 50 carefully procured, sourced customers that you went out and got in person. So then the questions come down to how do we make that happen on a mass market scale? How do we get customers that haven't met us before? Because I've worked with teams that had great success working with people they knew and through contacts and Facebook and that sort of thing. But as soon as we went out into the marketplace, they couldn't get anybody. They couldn't get any traction.
Yeah.
So how do we reach those people? How do we use data that we have? How do we access data out in the marketplace? How are other companies doing this that might be in a similar space or even competitors?
Yeah, I mean, but Bill, I was going to also talk about, and I had a question about outside the box thinking. So this, and it's not just aimed at commercial business launches, but for anything innovative. If you've got a team that's innovating,
this is fun. This is a fun activity for a coach, because you get to come in with an outlandish question. If I'm working inside of a big company, I might ask a question like, hey, let's come up with 20 ideas that would get us fired if we implemented them, or 20 ideas would cost over $1 million, or for any type of team, okay, only ideas that would involve witchcraft, or hey, how would the mafia solve this problem? And that one's fun because the first answer is, well, we would rub out our customers. Well, okay, well, we can't. So, but the cool thing about that is, well, we can't rub out a customer, or we can't rub out a competitor, but we can make them irrelevant in certain ways. Okay, so there is a line from these crazy ideas,
Wow.
and when you have people talking about things, crazy ideas like that, it opens their brain. It gets, it lowers the inhibitions. It's almost like drinking alcohol. It's like, after a couple of beers is a great time to have hope there are any children on the broadcast, to have a brainstorming session, because some of those inhibitions, oh no, nobody'd like that idea, those are all out the window, because everybody thinks all their ideas are great after they've had a couple of beers. And that's the thing. I even took a few teams out for drinks to do a brainstorming session, because I knew it would get kind of crazy, but out of that craziness would come some amazing things. Because you can take the crazy idea and say, well, that's crazy, but there's a grain of truth there that would allow us to do this, or to think in this way. So getting people to think outlandishly is a great way to start.
And coming from the UK, of course, we have lots of pubs, and
great place to brainstorm, right in the back.
Well, 12 Ronnies. The name that stuck, 12 Ronnies, was actually came from a pub discussion I remember we were having with Jake Shaw, and
I'm sure you weren't drinking Coca-Cola.
No, I don't think we were. Definitely not at the time. But Bill, beyond your 20 questions, I actually want to start sort of wrapping this up now in terms of the time we've got left. Beyond your 20 questions, what's the single most important piece of advice you'd like to give someone looking to become a more effective mentor for innovators, for people starting businesses or launching ideas?
Yeah, becoming a great mentor is like becoming a bodybuilder, and becoming a competitive bodybuilder. You might start as someone who's kind of weak and not very attractive to look at, but you go to the gym and you work and you work and you work different parts of your body, and you get a coach there. They usually call them a trainer or something like that.
Yeah,
personal trainer, and you get to that point where you start competing, and then you go to a competition, you get feedback, and then you go back to the gym and you work on your delts, your glutes, or your quads, or whatever those things that the bodybuilders work on. And the same thing is with a mentor. Jump in before you think you're ready. Work with a team, work with entrepreneurs, work across a lot of different industries with them. Get exposed to things, because no mentor ever knows everything, but the best mentors know what they don't know, so that they're not dangerous.
Yeah.
So you work across a lot of industries, so you know the lingo, and so you know who to get the team in touch with, because great mentors are also great connectors. Hey,
Yes.
I don't know much about social media marketing, but I know somebody who's great. Let me connect you with her.
Yeah.
And that person doesn't necessarily become a mentor, but they become a resource, a temporary resource, a subject matter expert for the team to work with. One mentor is the right number for a team. A coach, a team with two coaches has one too many. So, but the coach can also control who comes in and out and helps supply the team with what the coach knows they need. So learn about what teams need. Don't hallucinate. When ChatGPT hallucinates, we're used to it and we know it can happen. When people hallucinate, people can get hurt. So
Yeah.
We don't want that. So get out there, get your reps in, and it takes time. There's the old the 10,000 hour rule of Malcolm Gladwell. Whether you like that or not, I saw that for me once I was at that 10,000 hours, something flipped. The question part of thing, some of my peers were really great at asking really great questions, and I still wasn't for some reason. And then all of a sudden I was, but it was because I was allowed to go in and fail a few times and learn. And then it just clicked.
Well, it's like anything, Bill. To get good at things, you have to practice, train. And I love your advice about you only really need at any one moment in your team a single mentor. Too many mentors, there's a clash there. But having a large support network and being able to tap into and maybe be guided into who can support you in a particular aspect of your innovation is really important. So this is excellent advice. Bill, your book, Inquire to Inspire, where can people get hold of it? Where can people purchase it?
It is for sale on my coaching website, which is www.coachingup.us. So COACHING dot coaching COACHINGUP.us. It's available there. The ebook version is on its way. I just paid for it the other day, and it's being created and being sent to me sometime soon. I'll probably get that up on Amazon sometime in the next month or two. I just have to work out some details with them. And then the regular the print book will be there as well. The print book is probably the best thing, though. I mean, I like print books because, especially for business books, because I like to do lots of highlighting, lots of writing in them.
Yeah.
Some of the ebook readers will let you do some of that, but there's no substitute for having a real book and be able to put it in your backpack. When you're talking to the team, you can be looking through it and looking at your notes and getting inspired. So it's a quick read. It's, I think, 106 pages total. It's right where I thought it would be when I started writing it. That's about all I thought was in my head, and that's all that came out. So it's a relatively quick read for a business book.
And is that the correct address that I put down in the?
Yes, that'll get there. Yep. And there's a link right at the top that says buy my book or something like that. Yep.
And 20 questions. Just I know we're sort of almost we've finished our questions, but did you aim for 20 questions in the book, or was it you ended up with around 20, or what was?
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day. Is where did I come up with 20? I mean, 20 is sort of the 20 questions game that you play.
Yeah.
There are as many questions as there are ideas. Several years ago, I had put together for some peers, I had put together a set of playing cards called 52 pickups. There were 52 cards, and on the back of it, they're playing card sized, and on the back of each was a question, a provocative question you could ask a team that you're working with. So I think out of that 52 questions came down to these 20 very sort of strategic questions. And then in the book, I go through a lot of other questions that come out of them. But if you can start with these 20, it kind of takes you from why are we here to what do we do next, which is what you want to do with the team. When the team accomplishes what they're going to accomplish, the question then becomes, what's the next amazing thing we're going to do? Whether they built something or not, when they finish, they finish. They either decided to do something or not do something or pivot in some way. The decision becomes what's next for this team, because great teams should stay together. They should not split up, because all of that great rapport and all those skills that they build shouldn't be wasted by breaking them up and sending them away.
Absolutely. Well, Bill, thank you very much for today and for this live stream and this segment. And as you can see, we've got some nice positive feedback. I've just fed one of the comments through to you from the Global Innovation Field Trip. Really enjoying it. So Bill, thank you very much. And we'll have another live stream next Wednesday. So please tune in and join us then.
Thank you, Simon.
Bye for now. Bye-bye. Okay.